Hey guys, welcome back to more Entitled Parents Stories. This video is all about toxic parents claiming that they are owed more than they actually deserve. And the stories are all super satisfying. Let's dive right into the first one. And the first story is titled, "My family wants me to sacrifice my dream wedding for my sister's pregnancy. Am I the a-hole for saying no?" I am still shaking as I write this, and I honestly don't know if I'm being reasonable or if my family is right that I'm being selfish. This whole situation has blown up so badly that I need outside perspective. Some background: I'm 30 years old and have been with my fiancé for 9 years. We got engaged 2 years ago and I've been planning our wedding ever since. The thing is, I was finishing up my master's program when we got engaged, so we decided to wait until after I graduated to have the wedding. We wanted everything to be perfect and we knew we would have more time and money once I was done with school. About 18 months ago, we found our dream wedding venue. It is this gorgeous old mansion with beautiful gardens, and the moment we walked in, we both knew it was the place. The only problem was that they were booked solid for almost 2 years. The only available date that worked for us was this coming October, right after I finished my degree. We put down a hefty deposit and have been planning everything around that date ever since. My sister is 26 and has always been the baby of the family. I love her, but I'll be honest, our parents have always spoiled her rotten. Growing up, I was the responsible one who got good grades and never caused trouble, while she was the one who could get away with anything by turning on the waterworks. I've spent years covering for her mistakes, lending her money she never paid back, and basically being her safety net whenever she screwed up. Well, 3 months ago, she got engaged to her boyfriend of 4 years. He is a decent guy and they seemed happy. They were just planning a spring wedding next year, nothing too fancy, just something simple and affordable. She had not booked a venue yet, but had started looking at a few options. Last weekend, my parents invited everyone over for a family dinner to celebrate her engagement. My fiancé and I showed up with a bottle of wine, expecting a nice evening. My sister seemed excited but also nervous about something. Halfway through dinner, she made an announcement. "I have some news," she said, glancing at her fiancé. "We are expecting a baby." The whole table erupted in excitement. My parents were over the moon, my aunt started crying happy tears, and everyone was congratulating them. I was genuinely happy for her, even though the timing seemed a bit crazy with the wedding planning and all. My grandma asked the obvious question, "So what are you gonna do about the wedding? Are you still planning on spring?" My sister's face fell a little. "Actually, that's something we need to figure out. The baby is due in early June, so a spring wedding is probably out of question. We are thinking maybe we should move it up to this fall." "That's gonna be tight," my aunt said. "Most venues are probably booked by now for this year." Well, that is when my sister looked directly at me with this expression that I recognized from childhood. The one she used to get when she wanted something she knew she could not have. "Actually," she said slowly, "I was hoping we could talk about that. Would it be possible for us to step outside for a minute?" My stomach dropped, but I followed her out to the back patio. My fiancé started to come with us, but my sister said, "Just us girls for now." Once we were alone, she took a deep breath and said, "Look, I know this is a huge ask, but I've been thinking about this for weeks. You know how stressful wedding planning is, and with the baby coming and everything, I was wondering if maybe we could use your wedding venue." I stared at her. "Use my venue? What do you mean?" "I mean, like, maybe we could take over your booking? I know you have put a lot of work into the planning, but I'm just so overwhelmed right now. The pregnancy hormones are making me sick all the time, and the doctor said I need to avoid stress. Plus, you've already done most of the hard work with the vendors and everything." Seriously, I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. I said, "Are you asking me to give you my wedding venue?" Not give exactly. More like, let us use it instead. I know it sounds crazy, but think about it. You could plan another wedding when you're not so busy with work, and I really need this. The baby is coming whether we are ready or not, and I want to be married before then. You know how traditional mom and dad are." I could not believe what I was hearing here. "I've been planning this wedding for 2 years. We put down a $5,000 deposit. I've already since saved the dates." I know. But you're so good at planning things, you could probably find another venue in no time. And honestly, wouldn't it be easier for you to wait until next year anyway? You just started your new job and you're probably stressed out about money." The worst part was how reasonable she was trying to make it sound. Like she was doing me a favor by taking away everything I had worked for. "No," I said firmly. "Absolutely not. This is my wedding and I'm not giving it up." Her face crumpled immediately. "But I am pregnant, this is important." "Well, my wedding is important too. You're being so selfish right now. I thought you would want to help me." Before I could respond, she stormed back inside. I sat on the patio for a few minutes trying to process what had just happened. When I went back in, the mood in the dining room had completely changed. Everyone was looking at me with these disappointed expressions. "So?" my mother asked. "What did you two decide?" "Well, there's nothing to decide," I said. "I'm keeping my venue." The silence that followed was deafening. My sister was crying quietly, her fiancé looked mortified, and my parents looked like I had just kicked a puppy. "Sweetheart," my father said carefully, "maybe you should think about this. Your sister is in a really difficult position." "Well, so am I shot back. "I've been planning this wedding for 2 years." "But you're not pregnant," my mother said. "You don't understand the stress that she's under, and it is just a venue. The important thing is marrying the person you love, right?" "Well, if it is just a venue, then she can find her own." My grandma, who I'd always thought was on my side, shook her head. "I'm disappointed in you. Family should come first." That is when my fiancé finally spoke up. "With all due respect, this is ridiculous. We've put thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours into planning this wedding. You cannot just expect us to hand it over because it is convenient for someone else." "Stay out of this," my father snapped. "This is a family matter." "Well, I'm going to be family in 4 months," my fiancé replied, "and I'm not going to sit here and watch you guilt my future wife into giving up her dream wedding." The argument escalated from there. My sister kept crying and saying things like, "I cannot believe you're choosing a party over your own sister," and "I guess I know where I stand in this family." My parents kept talking about how disappointed they were in me and how I was being selfish and unreasonable. Finally, my fiancé stood up. "We are leaving, this is insane." As we are getting our coats, my sister grabbed my arm. "Please," she whispered, "I'm begging you. I will pay you back for everything you have spent. I just need this one thing." "No," I said, and walked out. That was 3 days ago, and my phone has not stopped buzzing since. My parents have been texting me constantly, saying things like, "Your sister has not stopped crying," and "We raised you better than this," and "Family is supposed to support each other." My sister has been sending me long emotional texts about how hurt she is and how she never thought I would be so cruel to her when she needed me the most. She even sent me a photo of a positive pregnancy test with the message, "This is why I need your help." The only person in my family who's been supportive is my older brother, who lives across the country. When I called him to get his take on the situation, he was not surprised at all. "She has always been like this," he said. "Remember when she threw a tantrum because you got to go to summer camp and she didn't? Mom and Dad made you give up your spot so she could go instead. Or when she borrowed your car for 6 months because hers broke down and you were taking the bus to work. This is just more of the same." And yeah, he was right, and hearing him say it out loud made me realize how long this pattern has been going on. But even knowing that, I still feel guilty. Maybe I'm being selfish, maybe I should just give her the venue and plan something else. It's not like the venue itself is getting married, it is just a location. But then I think about all the work we have put in, all the dreams we've had about this day, and I get angry all over again. Why should I have to sacrifice my happiness for hers? Why is it always my job to be the bigger person and give up what I want? My fiancé is furious with my family and says if they cannot respect our decision, they don't deserve to be at our wedding at all. Part of me agrees with him, but the thought of getting married without my parents there makes me wanna cry. So I guess what I'm asking is, am I the a-hole for refusing to give up my wedding venue to my pregnant sister? Should I just suck it up and find another venue to keep the peace? Or am I right to stand my ground? And yeah guys, let me know what you think about this one in the comments. If you would be in an OP situation, would you give the wedding venue to your entitled sister? Just to make it right for your ridiculously entitled family? I certainly wouldn't, but let me know what you think in the comments. Commenter number 1 said, "Not the a-hole at all. Your sister is being manipulative as hell and your parents are enabling her. Being pregnant does not give you the right to take over someone else's wedding. Just stand your ground, OP." Commenter number 2, "Not the a-hole. This is so messed up. You've been planning for 2 years and spent thousands of dollars. Your sister can find her own venue or wait until after the baby. Don't let them guilt you into this." Commenter number 3, "Absolutely not the a-hole. The audacity of your sister to even ask this is incredible, and your parents taking her side? Damn, you don't owe anyone your wedding venue, pregnant or not. This sounds like a pattern of favoritism that's been going on your whole life. Another commenter said, "You're the a-hole, sorry, but come on, your sister is pregnant, she's already got a ton on her plate, and you are acting like giving up one day, just one day, is some huge sacrifice. It's not like you're canceling your wedding, you would be just moving the date. Meanwhile, she's probably dealing with morning sickness, doctor appointments, and the stress of being a young mom-to-be. You've got your whole life ahead of you to plan this perfect wedding. Her timeline just changed drastically. Sometimes family means making compromises, especially when someone is in a tough spot. This is not about favoritism, it is about compassion." And by the way, guys, I just looked up the meaning of compassion in the dictionary, but maybe I was on the wrong page. It seems like the way this guy defines compassion is the same as being an entitled Karen. Anyway, your wedding will still be beautiful, just on a different day. She does not get to redo her pregnancy timeline, be the bigger person. And now, thankfully, we have an update to the story that goes like this. I stood my ground and karma delivered better than I ever imagined. So guys, it's been 6 months since I posted about my family demanding I give up my wedding venue to my pregnant sister, and wow, do I have an update for you. First, the good news, I had my dream wedding in October and it was absolutely perfect. My fiance and I decided to go forward without my parents and sister. It was painful, but my older brother flew in to walk me down the aisle, and honestly, the day was so much more peaceful without the drama. The venue was everything I dreamed of, the weather was gorgeous, and we were surrounded by people who actually wanted to celebrate us. Several family friends told me afterwards that they were disgusted by how my parents had treated me. Now for the best part though, my sister never found a venue. It turns out planning a wedding in 3 months while too stressed to handle anything is actually impossible. Who could have seen that coming? They ended up having a courthouse ceremony in December with just my parents present. My mom tried to throw together a reception at their house afterwards, but only about 15 people showed up because, surprise surprise, most people need more than a week's notice. But here's the real kicker, my sister's pregnancy was a lie. My cousin, who I'm still close with, spilled the tea in January. Apparently my sister had a miscarriage scare early on and panicked about the wedding timeline. Instead of being honest, she decided to use the pregnancy as leverage to steal my venue. She was going to miscarry conveniently after the wedding, but she got so caught up in the lie that she could not find a way out. The fake pregnancy test photo she sent me, it was bought online. The morning sickness, anxiety from maintaining the lie. The doctor's order to avoid stress, well, that was complete fabrication. My parents found out the truth when she couldn't produce any medical records for insurance purposes. They were of course mortified. My dad actually called me in tears begging for forgiveness and saying that they'd been completely wrong. Too little too late though. I told them that after 30 years of watching them enable her manipulation, I was done. I've been no contact since February and my mental health has never been better. My sister's marriage is already rocky because her husband is furious about being made complicit in the lie, and my cousin says they're in couples therapy, but it is not looking good. Meanwhile, my husband and I are thriving. We used the money we would have spent on my family's wedding gifts to book an amazing honeymoon in Italy. We are house hunting and talking about starting our own family on our timeline with our chosen family of friends and my brother. Sometimes the best thing you can do is let toxic people show their true colors and then walk away. I have zero regrets about standing my ground. My wedding was perfect, my marriage is strong, and I'm finally free from being my sister's perpetual safety net. To anyone dealing with similar family manipulation, you deserve better. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. And now guys, let's move on to the next story, which is titled "Toxic Parents Claim I Owe Them for Raising Me, Demand I Give Them My Company." So for context, I'm a 32-year-old entrepreneur who always had a dream of having a cafe. Not as exciting as being an astronaut or president, I know, I just really liked the idea of having a little corner of the world where I could make people happy with low stakes and good vibes. Looking back on it, it is almost sad. It was like I was so ready to get away from home because of the state it was in that it was fueling even my biggest unrelated dreams. I don't like my parents, let me make that clear. They are obnoxious, manipulative people who, frankly, don't compliment each other in any way other than being terrible people. They were never a big enough problem to get CPS involved or something, but there were times it was close. We were never the richest family on the street, but my parents sure lived in whatever kind of luxury they could flaunt that week. Whether it was an unnecessary car, weekly salon days for my mom, or gambling nights for my dad, they were always finding ways to make our income about them and them alone. It did not matter if I had a school trip that had a payment due, mommy needed French tips, or she would fall over dead. Despite everything they threw at me, I graduated high school and went right into college to get a better education, with half of my motivation being that neither of my parents did it and the other half that I would actually have a chance of getting that cafe. I will spare you the details of business school, I'm sure you've heard those stories elsewhere. Well, after years of hard work and saving, I finally did it. There was a small corner store that used to be some kind of antique collection that was being sold for a remarkably low price, and I jumped at the chance to buy it once I had a general outline for what I wanted the cafe to be. For a building as old as it was in pretty good shape, and it still is. Still though, I wanted a completely fresh start, so I had the walls repainted, a nice kitchen installed in the back, and created an entirely new vibe for the place, complete with fairy lights and real plants. I didn't even bother to tell my parents about the place, it would just get messy, and I really did not need that on top of the stress of starting a small new business. It took months to get the business really running, of course. So I made sure we marketed whenever there was an opportunity and that we were really something special, not just a typical coffee shop. Still, with all the hard work of me and the team I put together, the sudden boom in business was almost too much to handle at first. We became popular seemingly out of nowhere, and there was a variety of customers to have to get used to. A lot of students from the nearby community college like to study here, children wanting to try our new kinds of hot chocolate, and just the average Joe that likes to spend time here now. For a while, life was good. I saved enough to get my own place near the cafe, which was nice since the suburb it was in was near an apartment complex, so I was able to distance myself from my parents and be closer to work. I hired a manager who we will call Jen, who has done a wonderful job with her leadership and supporting wherever she can. She's also one of the few people who I can absolutely say was an ally of mine during the whole incident that I'm about to explain. Out of nowhere, years after I started the business and long after my parents found out about it, they invited me to dinner. It was a fancy Italian restaurant and they took about 50 pictures before we sat down. No doubt to flaunt on their Facebook or something. I was not stupid though, they needed something from me, not to try to have a nice dinner with their daughter who made it in spite of their parental absence. My mom started by asking me how the company was going and if I really thought I would be able to hang on to all that pressure by myself. I explained that while being an owner was stressful at first, the business was booming and I did not really have much to worry about nowadays. My dad cut me off and got straight to their point. They wanted ownership of the cafe. I was honestly confused more than anything. They never showed really any interest in me or the company, even after it was doing really well. Why ask me this now and so suddenly, especially when they had nothing to do with the cafe's success? Well, they essentially demanded that I give them my company because I owed them for simply raising me. I asked them and they explained that money was just a little tight at the moment and that they were depending on my support to get them back on their feet. I did not buy it for a second. I just kind of sat there in that nice Italian restaurant with my two well-dressed parents wearing accessories costing thousands of dollars, staring at them both. I asked them if they were joking. But they said no. I said that the last thing I was gonna do was give up my dream job so that they could keep up their lifestyle that frankly they had never been able to really afford. My temper is completely fine most of the time, but I don't think I'd ever been this pissed off before. They just blatantly demanded then that I give them 60% of the company and then everything would be fine again. Really, the level of delusion was off the charts. I didn't care how harsh I was. I told them that they were not in my life, it was my business and I owed them nothing. My mom cried dozens of crocodile tears and my dad scolded me for not respecting the people who raised me. It was so embarrassing and I just wanted to go home, so I did. I tried to block it out and just get back to work, but I felt sick. They had always been waiting for this moment that I was stable enough to fund their lavish lifestyle that apparently someone cares enough to follow them online for. I did not respond to their calls all night. The next week was weird, like really weird. Customers did not talk to me unless I asked them something, and there were a few more empty chairs than normal, and the overall vibe just felt negative in a way that I cannot explain. Jan was the first to really check on me and the first to actually see this as an innocent until proven guilty thing, which I was obviously confused about. She pulled out her phone and went to my parents' Facebook, where there was a very long paragraph posted. It listed in great detail all of the horrible things I had supposedly ever done, including stealing my parents' money and this business and trying to claim it for myself. I felt like I was gonna have a panic attack and my entire reputation could be crumbled by a single post and I could be stripped of everything I had worked for. There had been lots of people commenting, mostly their friends, giving their condolences and hoping that I would be dealt with. Jan had been with me almost the entire time and knew how my parents were, so she believed me when I told her about the dinner and refusing to give them the company. I didn't just try to make a post of my own, it would only make things worse. A part of me wished that it would just be forgotten about, but of course it was just a fantasy. One day I saw my parents sit down with one of my waiters explaining how I needed to be given the piece of paper they gave him and then leave, making sure that everyone in the room heard their opinion on me and how they would soon be turning this place around. I was too scared to stop them. The waiter awkwardly handed me the paper, a very fake-looking contract explaining the new ownership of the cafe since they now owned over 50% and meant they could perform a hostile takeover. That night I got an endless string of texts from my parents telling me how bad of a daughter I was and that I needed to just be there for them. I listed about a dozen times that my parents were not there for me in my childhood and they just brushed it off like nothing and demanded I get the contract ready. Just to make sure, I checked the legitimacy of the contract. It took maybe 2 Google searches to figure out they just grabbed it off some random website. The next day, during my period of denial, in which I was trying to act like the same sane owner, some of the customers began murmuring to each other, no doubt because of the rumors. That feeling really still hurts even as I write this. There was nothing I wanted to say to any of them, especially when part of the reason I was still here was to get away from my personal life and not drag it into my professional life. I knew that ignoring my parents was not the solution anymore, nor was giving into what they wanted. There were a few options I considered, but I figured I would just be wasting my time if I didn't stand my ground. When I got home that night, I filed a restraining order against my parents for their harassment. By now there was at least 4 hate threats on Facebook on my parents' accounts, and I knew they were not gonna stop with this. I did not think twice about documenting everything, including a few of my childhood experiences when going to file the order. Of course, they legally had to be told about it, and it went about as well as I expected. I got a few nasty messages from voicemail, because no way I was calling my parents back, as well as updated messages on their Facebook. We'd be here all day if I listed all the new accusations, but for some reason they were stupid enough to talk about the restraining order publicly and how it was illegal for me to have gotten it. At this point, their comment sections began to turn on them. People wanted more details. They wanted to know why I didn't just come on here and fight back, etc. And well, eventually the curiosity became too strong for an online debate. I came to work the next day and saw someone talking to Jan and taking notes. It was a bit nerve-wracking at first, since I thought they were here for random negative drama that would be going on the news and only drag the cafe down further, but he eventually introduced himself as a local newspaper runner. I recognized the paper's name and knew it was a very small business, and he then asked who I was and almost immediately what my connection was to my parents' names. So apparently the Facebook hate posts from my parents were popular, especially since they were posting on local groups, and therefore everyone nearby was more likely to have heard about it. I was asked tons of questions about everything, and I'd never felt more grateful that a journalist decided to talk to me first. Without my parents' influence to twist his words and questions on me, it was easy to speak the truth. It was better than therapy, I can honestly say. In a very small column the next day, my story was published. No, it was not a front-page story, and no, I did not get any letters of praise for being so brave or any of that typical stuff, but it was perfect. It was like I got a chance to pause everything and just get the story straight. From the looks of the article, they never went to my parents, or more likely my parents just ignored them. I'm not sure they even read it, but they figured out what had happened, and I got a bunch of calls and a handwritten letter regurgitating everything they'd ever said to me without a whiff of an apology. So then finally I cut contact and have not spoken to them since. I made one attempt to see where they were, but all I could find out was that their house had been foreclosed and they had moved out of state. They wiped every social media account and phone number I knew, and I wasn't really gonna try and track them down and go back to square one. They knew where I was, they knew what they did. If they ever feel the need to apologize, they know where to find me. Since then, I've started expanding the business, nothing crazy, for my own sake. I wanted to make sure every step was precisely planned out and I was not biting off more than I could chew. I've got 2 new stores that are in the process of being renovated, and I was more than happy to give Jan full control of one of the stores because she has earned it, I would say. Luckily, no one else had tried spreading rumors about me or the business. Gossip still runs freely like any coffee shop, but it seems to have a lighter touch around here. And no, I'm not some local legend for not letting my personal life ruin my career, but I will say the support I've gotten from my regular customers has been sweeter than I can handle. It's just an overwhelming feeling to know that your story matters to someone who doesn't owe you anything. I really hope everyone reading this finds that feeling somewhere. And yeah guys, thank you for watching, please don't forget to like the video, and I will see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much.